The galactic Concordat had maintained perfect peace for 8,000 years. Across 17 star systems and 43 inhabited worlds, not a single act of violence had been recorded since the Treaty of Eternal Harmony was signed. War had become a forgotten concept, violence an alien idea that existed only in ancient historical archives. Ambassador Zethkari of the Andorian Federation adjusted her crystalline neural interface as she reviewed the morning's intelligence reports. As chief mediator of the Concordat, she had spent centuries perfecting the art of diplomatic resolution. Every conflict, from trade disputes to territorial disagreements, was resolved through careful negotiation and mathematical optimization protocols. The morning briefing began like any other until her aide, Commander Vailtar, materialized through the quantum communication array with an expression of profound confusion. "Ambassador, we've received first contact protocols from an uncharted system," Vailtar reported, his bioluminescent patches flickering with uncertainty. "The species calls itself human. They've requested formal diplomatic relations." Zethkari's interest peaked. New species were rare, but always welcome additions to the Concordat. "Excellent. Prepare the standard peace accords. What's their technological classification?" "That's complicated." Vailtar consulted his datapad. "They appear to be a Class 7 civilization with rudimentary faster-than-light capability, but their initial transmission contains something peculiar." "Which is?" They asked about our military capabilities. The question hung in the air like a discordant note. Zethkari's neural interface processed the statement 3 times before she could formulate a response. "Military? That term doesn't translate properly. Do they mean our logistics coordination systems?" "No, Ambassador. They specifically use concepts that our linguistic algorithms can only interpret as warfare, combat tactics, and strategic armaments." Vailtar's confusion was evident. "Our xenolinguistics department believes they may have preserved ancient concepts from their pre-civilization period." Within hours, the human delegation arrived in a vessel that defied conventional design principles. Where Concordat ships were elegant, flowing constructs designed for efficiency and comfort, the human craft was angular, armored and bristling with what appeared to be weapons. Captain Sarah Chen stepped off the transport with 5 other humans, all wearing identical uniforms and carrying themselves with a rigid posture that spoke of discipline and hierarchy. Her eyes constantly swept the docking bay, analyzing sightlines and potential threats that simply didn't exist. The first diplomatic session convened in the Crystal Chamber of Understanding, a space designed to promote harmony through architectural psychology. Zethkari watched as the humans entered, noting how they unconsciously positioned themselves with their backs to walls and maintained clear fields of vision. "Welcome to the Galactic Concordat," Zethkari began, activating the translation matrix. "We offer you peace, prosperity, and partnership among the stars." Captain Chen nodded politely. "Thank you, Ambassador. We're honored to make contact. However, we need to discuss mutual defense agreements and establish clear rules of engagement should conflicts arise." The chamber fell silent. Zethkari's neural interface struggled to process the concepts being presented. "I'm afraid I don't understand. There are no conflicts in Concordat space. We resolved the last territorial dispute 4 centuries ago through mediated resource optimization. But what about external threats? Hostile species? Pirates? Territorial expansion?" Chen pressed, her tactical mind unable to comprehend a galaxy without conflict. "There are no hostile species," replied Council Member Thex Roll, his tentacles writhing with bewilderment. "The concept of piracy was eliminated when we established universal resource-sharing protocols. And territorial expansion is unnecessary when we practice sustainable population control." Captain Chen exchanged glances with her team. What about defense? Surely you have some form of military organization. We have emergency response teams for natural disasters and accident mitigation, Zethkari offered helpfully. But we abolished military structures millennia ago, when we realized that competition-based thinking was the root of all conflict.
The revelation that humans had arrived in the galaxy carrying concepts of warfare, competition, and military strategy sent shockwaves through the Concordat. Emergency sessions were called. Xenopsychologists worked around the clock to understand how an intelligent species could evolve while retaining such primitive aggressive instincts. Dr. Lyramoth, the Concordat's leading expert on prehistoric civilizations, presented her findings to the High Council. According to their historical data, humans evolved on a world with limited resources and frequent environmental disasters. They developed competitive survival strategies that they never fully abandoned, even after achieving space travel. But surely they understand the mathematical superiority of cooperation? Asked Council Leader Pexani. They do, Dr. Lyramoth replied. But they also maintain something they call game theory, the study of competitive decision-making. They actually believe that some conflicts cannot be resolved through pure cooperation. The humans, meanwhile, were experiencing their own culture shock. Captain Chun found herself in the unprecedented position of being a military officer in a galaxy that had forgotten war existed. Her extensive training in combat tactics, strategic planning, and threat assessment seemed suddenly obsolete. Yet within weeks, everything changed. The first crisis began as a routine asteroid mining dispute between the Zephyrian Collective and the Proximan Trade Union. Under normal circumstances, the matter would have been resolved through the standard mediation algorithms. But the humans had introduced new concepts into Concordat thinking. Concepts like leverage, strategic advantage, and zero-sum outcomes. When the Zephyrians realized they could apply game theory to their negotiations, they began making demands that previous mathematical models hadn't accounted for. The Proximans, not to be outdone, developed their own strategic planning departments based on human military doctrine. Within 6 months, the first trade war in galactic history had erupted. Not violent conflict in the human sense, but aggressive competition that pushed both sides toward increasingly sophisticated strategies for gaining advantage over their opponents. Captain Chun found herself in the ironic position of being the galaxy's first military advisor for peace. Her understanding of conflict resolution through strength became invaluable as species that had forgotten how to compete suddenly rediscovered the art of strategic thinking. "You've changed everything," Zethkari told her during one of their evening consultations. "For 8,000 years, we believed we had transcended conflict. But you've shown us that we had simply forgotten how to recognize it when it evolved into new forms." Chun nodded, watching through the observation deck as Concordat ships now moved in formation patterns she had taught them. Not for war, but for the complex dance of post-scarcity competition that humanity had brought to the stars. "We didn't come here to bring conflict," she said quietly. "We came looking for peace. But maybe true peace isn't the absence of competition. Maybe it's learning how to compete without destroying each other. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had arrived not as conquerors, but as teachers of a forgotten art. How to fight without weapons, how to compete without destruction, and how to redefine victory in an age when everyone already had everything they needed. The battlefield had indeed been redefined, from a place of violence to an arena of minds, where the greatest victories came not from defeating enemies, but from elevating everyone's game.